Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever thought about how two completely different fields, say incredibly precise timekeeping, and the daring world of aviation could be deeply connected through just a single object?
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating here is that, well, not only can they be connected, but for one historic name, that connection is literally part of their family history.
Exactly. So our source material for this deep dive really pulls back the curtain on a new watch that embodies this link, the Breguet Type XX Chronographe 2075. And this isn't just, another
Yeah.
luxury item.
No, not at all. It's a direct descendant of a critical tool, something military pilots actually used.
And it celebrates this incredible multi-generational legacy within the Breguet family, famous not just for watches, but for real pioneering work in aeronautics, too.
It's quite a story.
So our mission here is to pull out the key facts, the interesting details from the source material, to show you exactly how this modern watch ties back to those roots, back to being a tool. We want to reveal the history sort of baked into its design.
Yeah, and we'll look at the specific military requirements that really define this type of watch in the first place.
And the unique details of the two new versions, definitely. Plus, there's even a specific historical aviation feat shown on the watch itself. It's pretty cool.
Which brings up a good question, right? Considering they needed reliable instruments way up there, how did the demands on pilots back in the 1950s, how did that translate into the exact technical specs for a watch like the Type 20, specs that lasted for decades?
Well, it really kicks off with the French Ministry of Defense. They put out a clear order for these Type 20 watches for their pilots. And the big one, the really significant functional requirement, was a flyback chronograph.
Ah, the flyback. Crucial.
Totally. If you're a pilot timing navigation legs or maybe maneuvers, you need to time, reset, and instantly start timing again. No stopping the whole mechanism.
Right, just one push to do all three. Reset and go.
Exactly. And a flyback lets you do that. Super efficient.
And that wasn't standard tech back then, not by a long shot. Breguet was one of the key makers who actually met this tough requirement. Their version, well, it arguably became the most iconic.
Yeah, issued to French Air Force and Navy pilots starting around 1953.
And then pretty quickly after, they started making civilian versions, cleverly calling them Type XX, with Roman numerals, just to make that distinction clear.
Right, and our source material says this new one, the Ref 2075, it takes its design cues from one of the very first civilian models, specifically the first gold-cased one from 1955.
And when you look at these new watches next to that original template, you see this really nice blend. It's got historical accuracy, but with, modern execution.
So what are the key features?
Well, both new Breguet Type XX pieces have a case size of 38.3 millimeter, which isn't just a vintage nod, it's practical.
Like the originals, designed to be readable in a cockpit.
Precisely. Readable, comfortable on the wrist. And the case is crafted from Breguet Gold, which is actually a new proprietary alloy.
Oh, interesting. So even the metal is innovative.
Yeah, maybe a little echo of Louis Breguet's own work with material science for his planes. It has that classic pilot watch look too, right? Satin brush case middle, fluted bidirectional bezel.
That distinctive onion crown, yeah, and the pump pushers. The classic cylindrical ones, water resistant to 50 meters, sapphire caseback. You get a view of the movement.
And there's a Breguet 250 years inscription on the back too. Now the dials, they offer two quite distinct personalities, but both are rooted in history.
Okay, tell me about the first one.
There's a non-limited version. It has this striking black anodized aluminum dial.
Aluminum on a dial, that's unusual.
It is, and it's deliberate. A subtle tribute to Louis Breguet himself and his pioneering use of lightweight Duralumin sheet metal in his early aircraft designs.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and if you look really closely, usually down between 7 and 8 o'clock, there's a tiny L mark to confirm it. This version has vintage-style Arabic numerals and that big eye layout.
Big eye, meaning one subdial is larger.
Exactly. The 15-minute counter at 3 o'clock is noticeably bigger.
Yeah.
Super useful for pilots timing shorter intervals back in the day. It uses syringe hands, gold accents, beige loom for that sort of aged vintage vibe.
Got it. And the second version, limited edition, right?
Right, limited to 250 pieces. This one draws inspiration from a much rarer civilian model, one with a silver dial that actually came before the black dial version, but wasn't made in large numbers.
So a different rarity, a different look.
Totally. It has a satin brush 925's silver dial. You'll find a little Aggie 9Q5 inscription on this one with thinner numerals, and the subdials at 3 and 9 are the same size. Symmetrical.
Does it have any other unique features?
It includes a tachymetric scale.
Yeah.
which, maybe feels more like a racing watch today, but it's accurate to the historical model it's based on. And the central chrono hand is blue steel on this one. Gives it a slightly more, maybe understated feel.
Okay, so two distinct looks, both deeply referencing the past. But you mentioned something really interesting about the movement earlier, something depicted on it.
Ah, yes. This is where it gets really fascinating. Beneath the surface, both use manually winding calibers. The 7278 or 7279, they're based on a newer automatic movement, but adapted, for this historical context.
Manual winding, like the original.
Exactly. But the decoration on these movements,
Mm.
it's inspired by a specific, really audacious moment in Breguet aviation history.
Go on.
It commemorates Dudome Coste and Maurice Belanti's transatlantic flight in 1930. They flew from Paris to New York in a Breguet 19TR Super Biden aircraft.
Wait, Paris to New York, that's east to west. The opposite way Lindbergh flew, against the headwinds.
Precisely. It was considered way harder, much more dangerous because of those prevailing winds.
Wow, I bet.
And to really underline how uncertain it was, how daring, they actually painted a giant question mark on the side of the plane.
No way, a question mark. That is incredible. Did they make it?
They did. Took them just 37 hours. And the engraving on the movement captures that flight. It's like a miniature artwork. You see the Breguet 19 plane soaring over this smooth, finished Atlantic Ocean with frosted land masses for America and Europe, marking the start and end points of that historic journey.
That is an astonishing level of detail, connecting the watchmaking side directly back to the family's incredible aviation exploits. Just amazing.
It really is. And beyond the art, these movements are modern powerhouses. They run at a 5 hertz frequency.
Which is faster than many traditional chronographs, right? Better precision.
Exactly. Enhances precision. And they have a solid 60-hour power reserve.
Huh.
So reliable, which was critical for a pilot's tool back then, and definitely appreciated now.
And they still have that essential flyback function, of course.
That's core to the Type XX legacy. It has to be there.
And they come on calfskin straps, Breguet Gold buckles, black strap for the black dial, blue for the silver.
That's right. Priced around $43,500 for the non-limited and $45,200 for the limited silver dial.
So when you step back and look at these pieces, all these historical links, the technical details, the family story, what's the big takeaway?
I think it means the Breguet Type XX Chronograph 2075 is, well, it's so much more than just a high-end watch. It's an authentic, direct descendant of a very specific military tool.
Born from a family whose innovation literally spanned watchmaking and aviation.
Exactly. And every detail tells that story. From using aluminum for the dial as a nod to aircraft construction, to that incredible movement engraving of the Paris-New York flight, it's all intertwined engineering and history.
Absolutely. Understanding those origins, the design choices, the flyback, the materials, the art, it just reveals this incredible depth. The layers of engineering and the rich story embedded right there in the watch.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How the specific demanding needs of one time, what pilots absolutely required for safety and navigation in really tough conditions, how that led to a tool designed for such robustness, such specific function. And now, decades later, those exact practical demands aren't just remembered, they're actively celebrated, refined into this coveted luxury item for civilians. It's fascinating how the requirements of a critical tool from one period can so profoundly shape the look, the function, and even the desirability of objects in another era.